Welcome back to another edition of Breaking Some Ground with Brennan. We're talking racing today from the studios of LEB TV, and it's brought to you by Schaefer's Oil. Well, the weather's kind of dreary as we record this on a Wednesday, and looks like the Mars Series is supposed to be in Paducah, Kentucky, but I'd say that's in real jeopardy right now.
Yeah, we better have one of those boats for Lake of the Ozarks shootout ready to go, right? But hey, the weather looked like crap last weekend. It worked, but I'd say we actually have been looking at our options for the weekend, and I've not seen any good options. So we're gonna get a weekend off, which is good. We need some after the butt kicking we took last weekend. We need some time in the shop to regroup anyway. So be ready to go. Ready to go to Wheatland, which I'm jacked up for and excited. I knew going in that Maquoketa. I told everybody Maquoketa is my worst track I ever raced at ever in my life. I've never ran good there. And then I'm like, I'm going to have positive mental attitude. And I got there and I didn't. That didn't work either. But thank God we don't race there again this year.
What are some of the pitfalls at that track that you've discovered?
It's very hard. So there is running the cushion, and then there is being perfect on the cushion. A Bobby Pierce or Ricky Thornton, those guys are perfect on the top. And honestly, by the time our car came in, we were pretty good. And like Thursday night in practice, we were decent. We weren't good, but we were okay. And then I just messed up in qualifying both nights. Completely messed my line up. Well, the Friday night, I hit the hole wrong. First car out, didn't see the hole. The hole was not there in hot laps, and I hit the hole. Turn one, lap one, so that lap was gone. And then the second lap, I just should have went above the hole and completely missed the cushion. And if you miss the cushion at all, you have to be right in it. And I just messed up, and 100% my fault. And then I think we passed like 4 cars in the heat race that night. And then the same thing Saturday night, I just messed my line, and I got tight in 3 and 4 in qualifying. And if I had it to do over, I would have stayed tight and been fine. But it's okay. We live and we learn, and that's one of the reasons you have film and you watch your film and you realize it. And we talked on this show. I made the decision to go run Mars because I know that racing in Illinois on those tracks is where I struggle. And so I'm going to get better or knock a bunch of clips off my race car. So I know I need to get better at that. And so we learned, and then definitely you learn. And I felt like by the heat race time, we were decent, but it's too late. You if you qualify bad, you're not going forward. And, you can go forward a little bit in the feature. But you have to get into the feature to go, and that's okay. We knew the field of cars that was going to be there. We knew what we were signing up for, and I'm glad we went. I'm glad, I made the decision I made, and I'm okay with it because I know the experience I'm getting into. So as a race car driver, it's no different than stick and ball sports. You've been around that your entire life. Like you play with your competition, and if you want to get better, you go get better. If you go down south and race those guys in the south, they're really, really good at those racetracks. When you go up to Illinois and you race with those guys, you have to learn to run the cushion or you're not going to be competitive. So it's a different kind of racetrack than what you race on down south, but go look at your last few World of Outlaw champions and look at Lucas Oil champions and see where they came from, and that's Illinois dirt is where they came from, and there's a reason. And Iowa, Illinois, the black dirt, run up top, knock your quarter panel off that I'm not good at, that don't really even like. That's what you have to do, and I know it, so I'm gonna go pay my dues and see what happens.
Well, Bobby Pierce, he's a hot wheel. He swept the weekend. He's
really
he's
good.
Always a factor, isn't he?
He is. He's very good. And to think that you can't take anything away from what he does. He's so talented at running the top. And, Ricky Thornton Jr. did everything he could and drove off the racetrack both nights trying to catch him, and just Bobby can do things with a race car that nobody else can right now on the top, and his car is really good. And I ain't taking anything away from Bobby, but Bob Pierce is one of the smartest men in the pit area and is very, very, not only is he intelligent on his race car, he knows he's driven every one of those racetracks more laps than Bobby. So when Bobby makes a mistake, his dad can see it and he can communicate it to him, and they work so well together. And in my opinion, Bobby Pierce is the number one dirt late model racer in the world right now. No question asked. I think everybody will agree with that, but you had everybody else that was ranked high too. I think Jonathan Davenport's great when you go to Eldora, and Jonathan Davenport's awesome because he can hit his marks. Where Bobby Pierce doesn't get credit for is he set quick time Friday night on the bottom of the racetrack, and nobody knew you could go down there. And Bobby knew it. Bob or Bobby or both saw it, and Bobby went to the bottom. Everybody else is driving through the hole that I drove through about flip, and Bobby knew there was more speed on the bottom because there was a mud ring down there, and Bobby went wide open around the bottom and set quick time. That's the difference of where Bobby is now. Bobby wasn't there 10 years ago, but Bobby's very, very good, and he can put his race car where it needs to be on the bottom just as good as he can on the top, and does not get credit for that. And I think that people need to give him credit for it because that's very, very hard to do. A lot of people can run the top or the bottom and be good at one or the other. A Dennis Erb Jr., like that dude can catfish on the bottom better than anybody in the country. He ain't going to go up there and beat the quarter panel off his car. And I think, I felt like that's where Jonathan Davenport got better because when he came up, he was just knocking the quarter panel off and banging the boards up on the cushion. Now he can run the bottom and is very smooth. And I don't know if Mark Martin mentored him, but I feel like he did because Jonathan Davenport's the best driver in the United States at saving his tires. Go watch a race, and he'll 10, 15 laps in, he might be in the top 5, and then just keeps going and going and going. When it's time to go, his car's there, and he's able to go. So been interesting weekend, cool weekend. I have never signed so many autographs in one place in my life. They had an autograph session that we went to. They said there was around 400 people in the autograph line, and we went through 2 Sharpies in 30 minutes. So that's pretty incredible. The crowds were great. I don't know what that place holds, but there was no seats left. The bar was standing room only where people could watch from there. It was an incredible weekend. They had great weather. Looked like rain on Saturday, and it never did. And they got the show through, and just really good racing. And those guys, Jeff Hoker does a lot for the sport of dirt late model racing and puts this event on, sponsors a lot of the cars that were racing in it, and it paid really well. And he did a phenomenal job of promoting it and putting this on. So to see sold out grandstands like that, literally, and thousands of people, pretty cool to see. And that happens usually where we go. It's like that, but this is like a whole nother level of a crowd, and it always amps you up and, makes you want to do better. It seems like even more, but cool to see that many people I don't care if it was for water polo, to see that many people in an event was incredible.
The Nippy 50, Bobby Pierce, he pockets over $15,000 for the win.
Yeah, $25,000 on the weekend. So pretty good little weekend for Bobby. So, he won 10 Friday and 15 Saturday. So good weekend for Bobby and good weekend, for a lot of guys up there. The national tour guys showed why they're national tour guys. My buddy Tony Jackson had a hell of a weekend. Really, he didn't have I felt like was going to win his heat race. We were actually in the same group. It seemed like most of the time all year long, but we were in separate groups Friday or Saturday night. So I actually watched his heat race. I was in the 4th heat, so I got to watch his before I went out, and had a really good car and got ran off the racetrack twice and rebounded, come through the B, and I think past 10. I can get the hard charger both nights, I think, and just his car's really good right now, and that's the best his car's been all year by far. And so the Mars Championship's going to be tough, and you got him, Shannon Babb, Jason Fegers. Like, Jason Fegers and Shannon Babb is who you kind of wanted to be growing up, and so those guys you got to race with every week and at their home in Illinois on their home turf. They're going to be tough.
How often are you going to see the national guys come into Mars? Like that, like you saw last weekend.
That's probably the most you'll ever see. So next weekend at Wheatland, Jonathan, you're going to see Jonathan Davenport. You're going to see a lot of guys there next weekend because it's Show Me 100 tune-up weekend. So I think it's a 10 and a 20. That's non-points, non-sanctioned, but you will see. I expect to see Ricky Thornton there. A lot of really good cars. Non-Mars sanctioned, but then the other Mars events, I think there's one in August that you might see several at, but normally you're not going, both national tours were off, and what was unique about that event is you had the point leaders in World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil there. Like, really, the two best cars in the country right now are there. With Ricky and Bobby. So that's a one-off weekend that you want to race against that because you want to know where you stand. And I knew we were probably going to have to go to work. And like I said, I never ran good at Maquoketa and glad that we don't go back there for another year. So I think there's a World of Outlaw race there in August, and I'm not going. CJ Rayburn told Brandon McCormick one time, he said he was struggling at West Plains. And I didn't have a chassis problem this weekend, but back then a Rayburn car would not go at West Plains. And he said, he goes, CJ, my car, I don't know what to do with my race car, what I need to do. And he said, tell you what you need to do. He said, you need to call your wife and ask her what her favorite place to eat is. And he goes, what? And he goes, what's your wife's favorite place to eat? And he said, okay. Well, he's like, take her out for a nice date. You don't need to race every weekend. He goes, my cars don't go good, so just don't ever go there again. So if it ain't a points race, I ain't going there again.
Some sage advice there.
Yeah. But no, it was a good, it was good as far as we didn't tear anything up. We got a lot to learn. We know, we had a major brake issue Friday night. I had a part failure, put us back in the B. We didn't even get to run the heat race Friday night, and it put us back. Well, we had no chance of making the race, really. And the other thing is you have no provisional because you've never ran this series. So it's a very, very tough weekend. But I personally hope we get Paducah and Charleston in. I've never been to any one of those racetracks either. But they would be a Mars race, and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? You look at where the guys you're racing in points and racing against all year, where they were at on the racetrack with you, and we were there. So did we run good? Hell no. But we were respectable to, our regional guys. So we'll be all right, and we'll get digging. And Wheatland will be a good test next weekend because of what's, it's a good racetrack for me. And I can get anything we've been trying on the race car. I know I can go to Wheatland and put it in the race car, and I'm going to give you really good feedback and tell you what I know. Hey, we think this is working, but it's really not, or we thought this was not working, but it is. I need to adjust my line, stuff like that. So looking forward to Lucas Oil Speedway next weekend. And then I think we actually go to Tipton, Iowa, which I heard is an awesome racetrack. I missed that race last year with my mom's kidney transplant. And then we go to Burlington, 34 Raceway. I told everybody it's my favorite racetrack, and can't wait to get there for the Slocum race. So that's going to be an awesome weekend. So I'm looking forward to those. I've not been to Cedar County. Most of the Mars guys haven't, but I've been to Burlington a lot with MLRA, and I feel like we're a level playing ground there.
Most of these half miles?
No, a quarter to a third. And that's the difference in racetracks, 15 years ago, everything you wanted to be on a half-mile racetrack, because that was 15, 20 years ago, because it provided better racing. Now a half mile is honestly too big for our race cars. Too much power, too much, just everything's so aero dependent. When you get like Maquoketa does a small quarter, like you run way more gear there than like Springfield, and Springfield's a quarter mile and races like a 3/8 now because of the banking and the way it races. So it's like everything's so aero dependent that it really makes for good racing on a smaller racetrack. Opposite of what NASCAR has had happen is what's happened to dirt. Like NASCAR fixed their mile and a half problem. Their late models, we got a problem because if we go to Eldora, or honestly, if I-44 was dirt, it would have to be shortened. And that is, I mean, I-44 Speedway is too big to host weekly dirt racing. That clip can go viral. People can get mad about it all they want. It's too big. If I-44 ever went dirt, it needs to be smaller. Size Lake Ozark or Wheatland, like those are a 3/8 or a third. Like that is what you need now because our cars, technology, you can't unlearn it. You can't unlearn aero. And now aero grip is more important than mechanical grip. And all that technology and information that was at NASCAR, then it went to asphalt late models. It is now in dirt late models. And with that wedge body and everything that's in that body, it's just more of an aero dependent deal than anything. So aero push and all the stuff that you hear on TV, it's real. And I mean, there's, the first time people get in an aero push in a dirt late model and a half mile, they usually wreck. And it's incredible the amount of force that you can feel because you get behind somebody, your car's fine. You duck out and you're like, wait a second. Like you have to keep air on your nose. You can't be square behind them at all. And I was told that my first year, like, hey, make sure you keep a little air on that nose or that car will not turn. And you realize it very, very quickly. And it's just a different world. And it's great. It takes a track like Maquoketa, Springfield, Missouri. These smaller racetracks have turned into great racetracks for dirt. Asphalt's still the way it is. I-44 Speedway, if you're building an asphalt track, is what you'd copy. It's just different way that that the world's worked.
Cup Series, interesting weekend. Denny Hamlin gets the win.
Good for him.
At Martinsville.
Good for Denny. Denny's a great race. Like, Denny Hamlin, in my opinion, may be one of the greatest, probably the most underrated driver of my generation, and for sure one of the top 3 greatest. And so I'm glad to see him win. He is very opinionated, which honestly I like. All of his opinions I actually like.
Had a lot of opinions on the Xfinity race, didn't he?
I do too, because, and I'm going to pick on Sammy Smith because I can, I guess. Sammy Smith's a good race car driver after years of experience and learning. He drives a really good race car. He got put in a position to run second, and he got roughed up. And that's the new generation of race car drivers that frankly, need their ass whipped after the race. If you would have done that to Larry Phillips, if you would have bulldozed Archie Griffin when I was a kid, and Larry Phillips would have seen that, you would have had your eyes dotted and a bloody nose, and Larry would have taught you a lesson, and you would have never done that again. And that is the problem that I have. Bulldozing somebody is not racing. Like, you go to a dirt late model race and you do that to somebody in our pit area, you're getting your ass whipped. And that is what's going to happen, period. Like, not good. Nobody's going to call the cops. Nobody's going to, you know what I mean? Like, it will. But guess what? Everybody knows that, so they don't do it. And that is the problem. Sammy Smith is just the meme now, and it's not really his fault. That's his generation. That's what they grew up doing. They don't work on their cars. They don't, nor do I expect them to. Kyle Larson doesn't really work on his race car either, but Kyle Larson learned his lesson in 2013 at a late model race on TV at Daytona, and it took him probably 5 years to get his fans back for doing that, and huge problem for him. He is the most talented race car driver in the world. He would never do that. And my problem with what Sammy Smith did is if you're going to bulldoze somebody, you better win the damn race. He didn't even win. But he had no chance of making the corner, no chance of any of that. And I'm getting on the tangent that everybody else is on, but I watch racing, and I struggle as a race car driver because Mark Martin is probably one of my favorite race car drivers of all time, and who I tried to be they ask you, who did you try to be? Mark Martin. Mark Martin would let you go if you were faster and knew that the car would come back to you. Well, you can't race like that anymore. You can't do it in a dirt late model. You can't do it on asphalt. So that is gone, and I understand that, and I respect that. But Mark Martin would never dump somebody with no chance of making the corner. And I don't have if you want to do that, knock yourself out. The problem is so now you've got Billy Bob that goes and gets him a late model I-44 Speedway, and he just bulldozes Dylan Bates to win a race. Well, Dylan has worked his butt off and now has a destroyed race car, isn't back for the next 3 weeks because his car's destroyed. And Billy Bob over here thinks he's done something good. And it's not. Is it entertaining? Yes. Do stick and ball people watch that like, holy cow, that was cool? Yeah, but they're not going to come. You can't have that every week. And that's just, I think he'll learn. I felt bad for Justin Allgaier. He was going to win his third race in a row. Justin's a great person. And, his dad and his whole family, they're just good people. And Justin's a racer. And when Justin Allgaier is that mad at his teammate after the race, it's bad. I've listened to Dale Jr.'s show a little bit this morning. Dale Jr. took care of it. And I know he will take care of it because you never saw Dale Sr. really do that. The only time Dale Sr. really, really wrecked somebody to win was the Terry Labonte deal. Did he right hook Darrell Waltrip? Yeah. I still to this day cannot believe he did that. And I was 2 years old when that happened. Not like I was watching it, but Dale Earnhardt, all these highlights you see of Dale Earnhardt was over a 25-year career. He didn't move. He would move you. And I'm all about moving somebody. You don't wreck them. And if you're a good race car driver, especially on pavement, you don't need to move them. You work your way around them. Yeah. So
a lot of it's about just the process of if you win, you're in. We're in that era right now, and that brings a lot of that about. I think.
I think that too, and I don't have a problem with the win you're in, but for NASCAR to think that the win you're in simplifies the points for the stick and ball person that's not watching racing anyways. It does not. That the win you're in does not make it where it is any more desire to win a race. Any race, I don't care if you're running a pure stock at Midway Speedway. It's so hard to win a race at any level on any racetrack that you're going to do whatever it takes to win anyways. So the win that you're in, and I feel like that now that's like, well, that's the cop out. Well, you got to win and you're in. I got to do it to make the playoffs. You dive bombed a guy from 15 cars back so you could make a playoff that you're not going to have a chance at winning because your car's not good. You know what I mean? Like I think it's great to promote the sport, but I also think it's just used as an excuse because we all want to do whatever it takes to win a race. Just like baseball players do whatever. Baseball players put pine tar on the barrel of their bat because whatever it takes to get a hit.
Or get suspended for 80 games like Jerks and Profar for PEDs.
Yes, they're doing whatever it takes to win a baseball game and make it to the top of that level. It's no different, and just different way of looking at it. But I look at, honest to God, I look at winning a race like that about like I do steroid use in baseball. That's how I look at it. I may be wrong, and other people may not look at it that way, but that's how I look at it. If you bulldoze somebody to win a race and you don't give them a chance to race it out, you've cheated just as much as somebody putting a needle in their arm to go hit a home run. That's how I look at it. Right, wrong, or different. That's just the way it is.
So, trip up and back to Iowa, long trip home.
Yeah, our DEF even went out on the way. It was a great trip home, but we got all that fixed. But gotta love DEF. But yeah, long trip home. It's about an 8-hour drive home. Longest trip of the year for us on the Mars side of things. Paducah's not very bad. I've never seen Charleston, Illinois. I don't think I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah.
But then we go home to Wheatland and then back to Iowa. It's only about 4.5 hours to Burlington. Not too bad in a couple weeks. So back on the road again. So here we go again. Going to get a good weekend off. We all know that's happening. And then go to Wheatland. So hope to see everybody out at Wheatland. We'll have a lot of our stuff there, and that's racing at home. The weather looks pretty good, actually. And 2 2 nights. It's 20,000 to win on that Saturday night. So really nice payout, and I expect full campground and full grandstands there.
No doubt. No doubt. Talk to you again next week.
See you Wednesday.
Today's show brought to you by Schaefer's Oil. Thanks for joining us from the studios of LEB TV. We'll do it again next week.